Any letter in the Quran is either in a state of tafkhim, so a full mouth heavy letter, or in a state of tarqiq, so an empty mouth light letter. And so, words contain one type or the other. And in certain cases, they contain a combination of both types. But sometimes these combinations can be quite tricky, which means you would have a heavy letter kind of sandwiched between two light letters, or a light letter in between two heavy letters. And this increases the chance of making a mistake, causing the heavy letter to become light because of the effect of the neighboring sounds, or the light letter to become heavy for the same reason. So what is a practical way that can help us free a light or a heavy letter from the neighboring sounds? Well, to get through the practical part, you need three things. Number one, having some good knowledge on the makharij of letters, because it is important to know how the sound is articulated, and without this knowledge it would be more challenging for you to pronounce it correctly. And if you don't have this knowledge, then it would be a very good idea to follow the makharij series in which we explain all of these practical aspects. Second, using the speed of tahqiq, which is the slowest speed of recitation. So train and recite the Quran at the slowest speed possible, because it will help you pronounce every letter fully and give yourself the chance to make the switches between one letter to the other. And last, listening to professional reciters. It is important to train your own ears to recognize the correct sounds. So if you make a mistake, you would know that you made a mistake and start working on it to correct it. Ideally, you will be reciting to your own shaykh, but of course, if that is not available, then this is the next best thing. Making sure that these three things are in check will improve your chances to success, insha'Allah. So how do you train yourself on freeing a sandwiched letter? Well, we'll first start with a three-letter word before moving on to longer words with more complex set of switches. So let's start with this verb. Kha, la, qa. In this verb, lam is a light letter in between two heavy letters. And to free that light letter from the other two heavy letters, we'll follow 5 steps. Step number 1. Identify the letter that can get affected by other neighboring sounds and produce the sound of the letter on its own with its tashkil, which in this case is the lam that has fatha on it. So, la, la. You should listen really carefully to what it sounds like, because we'll soon compare it when we pronounce the full word. Step number 2. Split the word in a way that you start with the letter in question. So in this case, we'll say laqa, laqa. Again, listen carefully and compare your lam every step of the way, because it is the letter in question that could turn into a heavy letter. Step number 3. Now pronounce the heavy letter on its own. Kha, kha. Step number 4. Put the two parts next to each other. Don't fuse them yet. Kha, laqa, kha, laqa. The point of doing this is taking it as slow as possible so that you don't mix the characteristics of the heavy letters with the light letter. Finally, step number 5. Slowly pronounce both parts linked to each other. It is important to compare the sounds in question to make sure that you're saying khalaqa, khalaqa, and not khalaqa, khalaqa, because that means that you need more practice. And here it is in context. هو الذي خلق لكم خلق لكم. And here we have to pay attention to something important, which is not to involve the lip movement with heavy letters, which is a wrong way of executing kha. or exaggerating opening the mouth when you pronounce the lam. خلق. That exaggeration is not good, and it kind of ruins the sound of the word. You should not recite like that. Now, try to apply these steps on more words. If you want to train with me, pause the video now and try to apply the 5 steps and then compare it to my pronunciation. ظهر غفر ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. So, did you get it right? Now let's move to a longer word that is a little bit more complex in mouth movement and the switches you have to make. And the reason why it is one of the more difficult words is because the heavy letter ta is in between 2 light letters, and a light letter is in between 2 heavy letters. So what do we do now? Well, we'll simply apply the same steps 2 times. Once per instance until you get the hang of it and then move to the next. So let's start with the steps for the first part. Ta, ta, tal, tal, mu, 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 tal, mutal. So that's the first part. Now the second part. لا لا لقى لقى طا 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 لقى طا لقى طلقا المطلقات. Naturally, you can take as much time as you want until you get the hang of it, each part separately. When you're done with the first, move to the second until the pronunciation of a problematic word becomes automatic. Now let's see what it sounds like in context. وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ. Finally, lam is a particularly unique letter in the context of this lesson because it is the only letter that can be used as a light letter and a heavy letter consecutively, which means you pronounce 2 lams one after the other. One is light and the other one is heavy. This happens when lam with fatha or dhamma comes before the honored word, Allah, like these examples. In this example, the lam at the end of the word fadl is surrounded by the heavy dad and the heavy lam of the honored word. And in order to get this right, the fastest and the easiest of ways, learn this combination. Lu, lu, lullah, lullah, fadlullah. وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ عَظِيمًا. The second case is when lam has fatha and it is followed by the word Allah. And to make the proper switches for these words, learn this combination. La, la, lallah, lallah. Inna ajal Allah. And not Inna ajal Allah. So, always apply the mentioned techniques at a slow pace until you get the hang of such words. And never forget, the best way to learn the Quran is reciting to your shaykh and getting live feedback on your mistakes. Thanks for watching. If you want to start reading and understanding the Quran in Arabic, then you should start your journey right here. And don't forget to check out my latest book, which goes perfectly with this free course. I'll leave the links for all of them in the description, so check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.